Last week, I mentioned about Dan and Chip Heath's research about three key steps for motivating people to change. Step one was to paint a vivid picture of why the change is needed. When people see something that makes them feel something, that sparks the change. Today, we move into step two about motivating people to change. Back in the 80s, Texas was having a really bad problem with litter. The state was spending 25 million bucks every year cleaning up roadside litter, and it was just getting worse year after year. So they started studying the problem and they realized that it was a particular profile of a person who was littering. The profile was somebody who was in the age group of 18 to 35, somebody who liked country music, somebody who liked sports, drove a pickup truck, and somebody who was a little bit anti authority. You know, the kind of people who will throw beer cans and wrappers on the street from the pickup truck. So, in other words, what they found out is that if we have to reduce roadside litter, we had to appeal to someone who fits this profile. And they lovingly call this person Booba. So, how do you get Booba to change? So, the researchers racked their brains on what would work. A bigger fine won't help because Boobas were anti authority. Telling them to stop would only make them litter more. So, you can't tell me what to do, kinds. So, they said, let's look at maybe creating a campaign, maybe it will help. So in 1985, the Texas Department of Highways and Public Transportation, as it was known then, sought out bids for a $2 million campaign, anti-litter campaign. McClure, who was a founder of an advertising agency based out of Austin, which was called GSD&M, was one of the bidders. He said that as it got closer to time to put in the bid, they just weren't able to get a fix on the campaign. Now, what he did when he felt stumped in times like that was to go for a walk. So, one early morning, when he was walking around in his Austin neighborhood, he noticed that there were beer cans strewed all around, hamburger wrappers which were thrown around, and he was disgusted. He got really mad and he said, there has to be some language we would all recognize and understand. And at that time, his mom's quote popped up in his mind, something that she would tell him when he was, messy in the room as he was growing up. Son, your room is a mess. It always was, says McClure. And she was always right. And suddenly that became a campaign slogan: don't mess with Texas. It had nothing to do with litter, but it was a call to Texan pride, reaching into the DNA of Texans about not messing with Texas. And it felt really right at that time. So he goes ahead and pitches it. And the gist was that if you're a good Texan, if you love your state, you will not defile your state with your litter. And in this campaign, they got all the popular Texan men: Too Tall Jones, Mike Scott, Nolan Ryan, Evander Holyfield. All of them were role models. They were making a case in the commercial saying, don't mess with Texas. And the campaign really worked. These litter bugs or litter boopas would be damned if they went against their role models. In 5 years, roadside litter declined to an amazing 75% down. So think about all those individual instances of wrappers which were just kept back in the pickup trucks, or beer cans which are just thrown in the back of the pickup truck instead of being thrown onto the street, for this kind of a decline to happen. Tim McClure, the person who created this campaign, credits his mother's rebukes about his messy room as a kid for this inspiring battle cry. It became really interesting because people thought that it was simply a macho thing, but really it was an anti-litter thing. So instead of trying to change their values, the campaign highlighted that littering violated their values that is already part of their identity as Texans. So think about a change that you would love to see at work. How can you convince people that trying it will help them live their values or express their identities? Let's say you want your colleagues to get out of their silos. Maybe you could appeal to their identity as subject matter experts with knowledge to share. Maybe you're hoping for your manager to give you hybrid work access. Remind him about his values of attracting and retaining top talent. So don't try to change people's values. Appeal to the values that they already hold. What do you think about this? Do share in your comments. And in the next week, we'll talk about step 3. And I look forward to hearing from you.